Welcome to another weekly S&P 500 analysis. Last week we saw the S&P 500 came off of this low and came up, broke this little short-term trend line here. Now officially we are still on a downtrend, technically speaking, because this high here is still below this pivot high. So until this pivot high is get taken out, then put in a higher high, we're still looking for a pullback to put in a higher low, then we can make a claim that this downtrend here has been broken and we see a new beginning of a higher high, higher low type of uptrend. Now, in regard to this uptrend here, depend on where this high will take us. If it come up and take out this all-time high, put in a all-time high and basically take out the December 6th intraday high, then we want to see a pullback and possibly test this previous all-time high area here. Now, if it doesn't hold and then come back down here, then this could be the near-term intermediate top for the market. And looking at the Dow Jones Industrial, you see the Dow Jones Industrial took out this high last week, so officially it has put in a higher high. So now we're going to wait for a pullback to see would it be able to hold this low here. Hold above this low, then we're basically looking for a higher low. Then we could be looking for this all-time high to be in play for the Dow Jones Industrial. And for the New York Stock Exchange Composite, it also took out this pivot high and put in a higher high. So similarly to the Dow Jones Industrial, want to see, could it put in a higher low? Then we could also be looking at the possibility of this all-time high to be in play. And for the NASDAQ 100, the NASDAQ 100, although it came up and bounced off from the last week's low and came up to this trend line here, but it's still pretty much in this sort of a downward trend line, this channel here. So unless it could break out and take out this high and then pull back a bit, and hold above this low, then pushes up, then we basically be putting in this all-time high to be in play. But until then, we're basically still looking at the possibility for the NASDAQ to come back into this channel and basically continue to form. Maybe some of you might be looking at this as a bull flag, and that could turn out to be if it breaks out and take out this all-time high. But until then, we'll basically be looking at it as a downward price channel until the market tells us otherwise. And if we look at all the major indexes, you see that the Dow Jones Industrial is above the 30-day moving average, and so is the New York Stock Exchange Composite. The Dow Jones Transportation is also back above the, although the 30-day moving average is declining, but it is above that declining 30-day. Similarly for the NASDAQ 100, and the S&P 500. Now the Russell 2000 is still below this its 30-day moving average, and also it's a declining 30-day moving average. So the Russell 2000 is still showing some weakness here, although it's trying to come up. So we'll keep an eye on it for the coming week. And here's the performance for these major indexes. You can see last week the Russell 2000 is actually the top performer, and the worst performer is the NASDAQ and the NASDAQ 100. Now, year to date, everybody is still positive, and year to date, the transportation is a top performer with a gain of 3.37%. So I'm not going to go through individually. You might want to just pause the video and then take a look at it individually. And looking at the sentiment chart here, you see the VIX is down at the 16 level. So obviously, the market participants are still not fearful, and they are a little complacent. And also you can see that the put call ratio is down at 0.6, so they're obviously getting a little bit more bullish. And also last week we saw some positive strength in the internal. We see that the up down volume ratio is pretty much positive throughout the entire week and finished the week at 1.39, and so were the advanced decline. The daily advanced decline also showing more advancing issue and declining issue throughout the week. And also the other positive thing is that the number of stock making new low have came down, and we see a little bit more stock making new 52-week high, and the 52-week high versus 52-week low turned positive. That means there are more stock making new 52-week high than stock making new 52-week low, and that's a good thing. And here we're looking at the cumulative AD line for the New York Stock Exchange, and we are seeing a little bit of a positive divergence here, right? So that's also another positive for the New York Stock Exchange in terms of the internals. And here looking at the NASDAQ, we see that the NASDAQ also shows some positive or strength in the internal, the up-down volume ratio. Other than on Monday, it was pretty much positive throughout the remainder of the week. Similarly for the advanced decline, there were more advancing stock than a declining stock for most part of the week. Now, the new high, new low is not as good as the New York Stock Exchange, although the number of stock of making new 52-week high, 52-week low did come down a bit, and also the number of stock making new 52-week high did also increase. So we are seeing a little bit of a positive on the new high versus new low, and there are a little bit more number of stock making new 52-week high than 52-week low. And not too much to be said about the cumulative AD line in the NASDAQ market. It's pretty much still that negative divergence consistent with what it has been doing for quite a while now. But overall, we are seeing a little bit of internal strength in the market from last week's bounce. So we'll be interested to see how it follow up on this coming week. All right, let's take a look at the price action of the E-mini S&P 500. As you can see, it got a bounce near this low volume area here last week, and it came up and took out the upper range, and it actually closed above it and got into this area here. And here's what the market is pricing in for the coming week. So the market is pricing in the upper range between 6122.50 and 6112.75, and the lower range is between 5952.25 and 5915. So we'll see if it come up and take out this high here, right? This the upper range, then it's basically putting a higher high. And then if it come back down and test this area here, and then push up to an all-time high, then we basically got this a higher low and a higher high. And this downtrend is basically officially have been broken, and we could start seeing a new sort of uptrend here with this higher high, higher low price action, and also taking out this all-time high, bringing the ES into a new all-time high territory. Remember a while back, we said we are expecting the S&P 500 to make another new all-time high, because this high here is what we call a poor high back in December 6th. And that was the message that the market tell us to be on the lookout for another S&P 500 all-time high. And here looking at the SPY, we see a similar type of price action. It came down here in this low volume area and then got a nice bounce up and took out the upper range and actually closed above it. And it's closed near this high volume node here. So for the coming week, we'll be looking at these prices here. And here's what the market is pricing in for the coming week. It is pricing in upper range between 607 and 605.70, and the lower range between 589.40 and 586. So it is pricing in basically a higher high if the SPY come up to this upper range and then come back down and hold within this range here, even though it come down to the low range and then bounce, that basically have put in a higher low and also a higher high, because it took out this pivot high here. Now last week this high is still below this pivot high here, so we do not have a higher high yet. And for the NQ, the E-mini NASDAQ 100 future here, we see that it also came up and closed right at the upper range of the weekly expected move. And for the coming week, the market is pricing in the upper range between 22,025 and 21,975, and at the lower range is between 21,202 and 21,033.25. So once again, it is pricing in to put in a higher high and possibly a higher low, then we could put this all-time high in play if that's the case, unless it's basically just a little bit of a false pretense here, and it essentially come down and take out this lower range and come down here to this high volume node and continue with this downward price channel. Okay, so that's one other possibility on the downside. So don't be just focusing on taking out this pivot high here, because there's still the possibility of more downside for the Nasdaq. And for the Q, it also came up to this high volume node here last Friday. So right now, we're basically looking for the possibility of putting in a higher high. And for the coming week, the market is pricing in the possibility of a higher high with the upper range between 532.50 and 531.20, and the lower range between 512.30 and 508.50. So if it come up, take out this upper range, or come up and tag this upper range, pull back down and maybe double test or back test this high volume node here, and then push up to the all-time high, then essentially it has broken this downtrend here, put up a higher high and a higher low. So those are the possibility of a price action for the Q, for the SPY, NQES. So certainly there are some possibility on the upside with the renewed showing of some sort of strength on the internals. We could expect a little bit more upside now, whether it's a new high be put in next coming week, or would it be the following week. Remember, we're still looking for another new high for the S&P 500. Well, the market doesn't tell us when, but it told us to expect a new high. So we just have to be cautious and also be patient. Looking at the 11th sector in the S&P 500, notice that the XLK is starting to come up a little bit, but it's still in this downward trend here. So unless you could take out this high, we're basically still looking at some weakness on the XLK. So maybe the mega cap will come back up and start taking out this high here for the XLK. Now for the consumer discretionary, we are seeing a little bit of a bounce here, and the consumer discretionary got back to above the 30-day moving average. Communication is still kind of in a little bit of a downward direction here, although it is coming up to this 30-period moving average, but this moving average is declining. And also the retail still weak, and the industrial is starting to turn back up. So maybe we get a little bit more strength in the Dow Jones Industrial or the industrial stock. And we're seeing that it is above the 30-day moving average. And also the energy been quite strong, and it has continued to show strength. And for the consumer stable, it's still pretty weak, and we see that the healthcare sector might be consolidating, building a little base here. We could see maybe it is starting to form a little bit of a bull flag, or maybe it's just another small distribution setting up for another downward move here. So we'll keep an eye on this to see what it get back above this moving average, this 30-day moving average, and turn this cloud into a green cloud. And also the utility is turning up again, and the real estate is still kind of weak. So we'll see. It is trying to come up and test this 30-day moving average here. And the financial from last week, a lot of the big bank report strong earnings, and we see that the financial got a nice turnaround last week, and it is back above the 30-day moving average, and also that moving average starting to turn back up again. So here's the performance. Look at last week, the energy sector is the strongest performer, with the healthcare the weakest. But overall, every one of these 11 sectors finished the week in the green. And for the year to date, only the consumer stable is in the negative territory. Everyone else is positive. And looking at some of the key sector here, you see that semiconductor is still kind of consolidating within this range here between 240 and 258, although it is bouncing upward here. So we'll see, will it be able to take out this 261, 262, or will it come back down to this 240 in the coming week. Now, the USO oil has been quite strong, well, not quite strong, been really strong. You see the surge is continued, although we are seeing a little bit of a pullback, but I believe oil still got a little bit more upside to go. So we'll see. And also the producer also participate on the upward direction as well. And here the biotech is still quite weak and continue to be at the low here. Now, although this might be forming a low base here, so we'll see if it could hold this 131 and then pushes back up to this 135. We might get a little bit of a consolidation here and a little bit of a breakout, possibly trying to come up to this 141. So we'll see how this thing hold up. Who knows, right? It could come down and break this 131 and start coming down to this 125 area. And the minor finally, getting a little bit of a bounce, although, it is still, quite amount of distance below its recent high here. But at least it is getting a little bit of a bounce off of this recent low and came back up above the 30-period moving average here. And from the banks earnings last week, we did see the banking sector came back up and got above the 30-day moving average. The moving average is still declining, so it probably had to do a little bit of a basing here to turn this moving average up. Or this could be just a little bit of a dead cat bounce for this earning. Similarly for the regional bank here. And here's the home builder, although it came up, but the moving average is still heading down here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the home builders reverse back down. And also the TLT got a little bit of a bounce, but it still basically is on a downward direction. So I wouldn't be counting on the bond have bottom yet. So probably we'll see this thing continue to slide down a little bit more as the 10-year rate continue to move toward that 5% level. And here the performance for the key sectors here, some of the key sectors here, you can see that the regional bank is the top performer, and also the bank, basically, the financial. And the home builder, kind of surprised to see that home builder is at the near the top of this list here. The retail and the biotech are the two sectors that are in the negative. And for the year, we'll see. Let's see. For the year, the best performer is the oil producer and also oil. Semiconductor is still the minor home builder. So I'm just going to let you pause on the video and then go do it on your own here. Thank you for watching. If you find the content in this video to be informative and useful, be sure to smash the thumbs up. And also, if you are new to this channel, be sure to click the subscribe to this channel. And if you'd like to see additional content from me, be sure to go and check out my Substack newsletter, The Pulse of the Market. In my newsletter, you can see my daily trade plan for the ES and also for the SPY. And basically, I have listed out some of the levels to keep an eye on for the coming session. In addition to that, I also give out trade ideas, such as the latest one I put out on Boeing and trading using certain option type of strategies. And I also publish the my analysis of the Max 7, the Magnificent 7 stock. So you can see my analysis on Tesla, Apple, Meta, Amazon, Google. So be sure to go and check out my Substack newsletter if you'd like to see some additional content. And I have the link in the description below. So thank you for watching. Good luck on your trading.